Today's guest has nearly 40 years of experience in automotive retail. He originally trained as a physiotherapist, but one course in automotive was enough to send his career in a very different direction. Since then, he's worked with major OEMs, led European remarketing operations, and now advises retailers and governments on used car strategies. Please welcome Johan Verbois. Hi Johan, welcome to the Car Dealership Podcast.
Hello, Martin. Nice to be here.
Yeah, very nice that you are here. Thank you. So let's get started with the obvious question. Who is Johan Verbois? Can you tell a bit more about yourself and your background to the listeners?
Okay, yeah. So Johan Verbois, owner and co-founder of MA5, which is a used vehicle consulting group. And probably, unfortunately, maybe, but already next year I'll have 40 years. I will be 40 years in automotive. So that's quite a long time. How did I get into automotive as well is a bit strange because when I had done my studies, I was not sure what to do, and I actually went into a session for salespeople in a automotive dealership. They actually invited 6 people just to do a kind of test and to have a whole week sales role plays and everything. So and out of those 6, they would hire 2 people, and they offered me the job, which I didn't think I would get because I was not specifically into automotive. So that's why I rolled in this automotive world. So at the local dealer here, actually. So,
nice. But I know also that you have been a physiotherapist also. Is that right?
Yeah, that was what I studied, but afterwards I was not sure what I was going to do in.
That was your study.
21, you're actually a bit like, am I going to go that route and am I going to work in a hospital or whatever? So I was a bit freewheeling for a while, and then I just rolled to this automotive world, and I'm still in there. Clear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, good that happened, of course. So, but your dealership, what where you started, your local dealership, which brands did they sell?
Well, they sold Opel at the point of time at Gaspar, actually, and it was around Antwerp area, which I think you know from history very well. So they had Opel and they had Isuzu and things. And actually, what happened is I'm not a good salesman, not at all. So as from the start, I was more interested in organizing stuff, like the open door weekends, or I was doing the stock lists of used vehicles. I was doing the weekly planning. So actually being more in support of sales than really actively selling. Of course, I sold my vehicles, but it was not my key thing. And then 3 years later, I think they've asked me whether I would be a head of sales, so more for organizing and supporting salespeople. We had 6 people at the point of time, which was a bit strange because I think I was 24 or something, and we had salespeople that were 50 years old, there for a long time. And this is how I rolled more into this management role. And then afterwards, I did a bit the same as sales director into a group of around Mechelen, where we had Mercedes and Peugeot. And then I also took responsibility of the ex-lease vehicles because we had our own leasing company. And that's where it, of course, went maybe a bit more into second-hand vehicles.
Yeah, because you're also known in the industry from the remarketing experience and also the remarketing events. We'll talk about that later. But also that you worked many years for Toyota. So can you elaborate a bit on that?
After this retailer group, I went to Opel Belgium, where I was
Mhm.
requested to implement a certified used vehicle program. Was there for 5 years. And then I
Yeah.
was recruited by Toyota Motor Europe to be head of fleet and remarketing. So
Yeah.
uh, Toyota at that point of time, that was 2002, didn't have enough European production, so they were, and so it was really building it up until they had more vehicles to sell because they were continuously in a short of supply, which is good for RVs, of course. And then I set up there the fleet strategy, used car strategy, certified one, and I worked there for 11 years in total. So that I must say was a great experience. Great.
Yeah. I can imagine. So, and what are key things that you learned working for such a large scale operation in automotive?
Well, of course, one thing is that it has completed a bit the journey from working at retail, working at an NSC or an importer, for example, and then working at an HQ, which is an enormous perspective if you have got all of those aspects. Because actually, everything that a headquarter plans should have an impact for or a customer or a salesperson. Because otherwise, why would we do those things? That's one thing that it basically concluded this, or it made it complete. Second thing is probably is like Toyota is enormously strong in cultural beliefs and the way they work. Um, I think they will not be mad about to me saying that they're not maybe always the fastest, the most agile, but once they decide something, they go and it can't be stopped. So there's a lot of consistency, which is enormous, and there's really this drive, belief in what they do, in the objectives. I know that Akio Toyoda said at a point of time, we don't uh, want to be number one in sales, but we want to be number one in a lot of things, which might result that we are number one in sales. So it's basically about customer satisfaction, quality, all of those things. So it's this culture, and I think what also work helps enormously in our work currently is they have an enormous ability, and I think this is also more um, Japanese as well, the ability to make complex things very simple in processes, overviews, visualization. And I think this is still probably the number one that helps us today under MA5 to make things simple. Because if you make things simple as an overview, you can get people along this journey quite easily. So I think that I will always have a bit of Toyota in my heart, probably, as you hear.
We have that. We have that a bit in common, perhaps, because I started my career in 2000 also at Toyota. So
Okay.
Toyota and Lexus in Breda, Van Dorst
Oh,
dealership, and yeah, it's now Lauman, but at that time it was called Van Dorst by Jacques Van Dorst, where yeah, I reported to Ferry de Nere, my first boss at Lexus Breda. Really great period in my career. And what I like about Toyota is actually focus on quality and also the Kaizen philosophy. Like every small improvement that you can find counts, and it's very important. Small things, because 10 small things make a very big thing. So look at each small improvements, and I think that also this idea box that Toyota has, like if you have an idea, it's actually promoted. If you have an idea, put it in the idea box, and actually when something is done with that, you'll hear it as an employee, so that you're also proud of. Oh yeah, I actually had a great idea. It improved the business. It improved actually the experience for the customer. So I really love that about the Japanese culture, and so we have a bit in common with the Toyota part. But you also mentioned that you from MA5 also practice these things. But what led you to start MA5? What gap did you see in the market to start with MA5?
Yeah, I think the first idea popped up, I think, in 2020, because we had COVID at the point of time, so we had a lot of time. Honestly speaking, most of us, most of the consultants did a lot of refurbishment in the house. We just bought a new house, so I could work a lot there. But so the first ideas popped up because I was working as a consultant with my own company as from 2014. So I was in the business then 6 years. And we worked a lot together with other consultants in Spain, in UK. And we were doing a lot together. And I thought, why not officialize this? One of our co-founders, Silvio, half Italian, half Dutch. I know him from more than 30 years. We actually worked together in the retailer group with Mercedes. And then Ian, a UK. He worked for me as a consultant when I was at Toyota Motor Europe. The idea popped up, and then we created this, and we thought about MA5 just as a first idea. It was more a name for the idea, because it's the first is the abbreviations of our three entities. Of course, after a while, if you use the name a lot, it sounds okay, and then we actually used it. So we are now. It was officially launched as a commercial name in 2023 because it really got a lot of attention and a lot of people start to know it. It seems we now have officialized it as a real company this year, and we're now reviewing everything also from the branding and colors, whatever have you. But the name certainly stays.
Your background picture is part of the rebranding then.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, that is still an old one, but it'll slightly.
Okay. Yeah.
But the idea is going to stay a bit the same because we work globally. We also have got this experience, of course. Our Spanish colleague in Spain, he does things in Panama. He's just been there, or other countries there in Latin America. So we basically split a bit responsibilities there.
Yeah, great. Yeah. So, and I have the pleasure of working with a lot of you already, both in Spain and in the UK, and also at events. So really great. And it says MA5 Used Vehicle Consulting Group. So let's talk about used vehicles. Why are they more important today than ever before?
Oh, I think they've always been key. But why are they more important maybe today is, of course, the size of the market is one thing. If you look into the new car market, it's probably around 17 million. It has been 18 or a bit more. Used cars is above 45, so it is 46 million or 47. So it is an enormous, sizable market. There's an enormous opportunity. Why is it interesting as well is because used cars has always struggled with level of attention. And I think that's certainly one of the key messages I would like to give as well is, does it get enough attention for people? Not for me to answer. Well, I can answer, but then I need to analyze it. But it is in OEMs like this. It is in importers. It's in dealer groups. The level of attention to the used car opportunity is not enough. And if it's not enough, then currently it's even more true because of the enormous fast change. The ecosystem changes with things like e-commerce, artificial intelligence, changing new entrants as well. I'm not here specifically talking about Chinese vehicles, but I'm more talking about that there are players on the market that don't come out of automotive. And unfortunately for a lot of people, they are often more agile, and they don't take along a lot of thinking from the past, and they go fast. So I think that's why it requires much more attention, and of course, not to mention as well electrification, which of course brings into another role a complete other ball game. So
yeah, of course, but I think that retailers do have an issue with that electrification, or don't dare to buy them or have them in their used car inventory, because it's also so new for them. But before we go there, I think that what is actually curious about your view on this. When I was working for Autorola in the past, so I was actually we started with Autorola in the Netherlands, and when I was calling dealers at that time to get bids on cars, you could actually, for any car, call a dealer and get a bid. So even a Renault, you could call a Mercedes dealer if you would say, but yeah, I really need a bid, you'll get a bid. They're so used to it, to buy used cars. Even I worked for a very big dealer organization in the Netherlands, where the CEO says, we are a franchise dealer so that I can sell used cars. Not new, used, because there I can earn, and we'll also sell the new ones well. But if I'm a franchise dealer, people prefer buying a used car from a franchise dealer. So I have an uplift on the value. It creates trust, but that's where we really earn the money. And of course, also the service department. But the funny thing is that in 2004, I started at Autorola. Then 2006, I went to Belgium to start up Autorola Belgium. So then we did the same trick. We called dealers to get them active on the Autorola platform. So first, they don't know the platform, you need to call them. So I called dealers and I said, can I speak to somebody responsible for purchasing? And then they said, purchasing? What do you mean? Paper, coffee? I said, no, cars. Oh, we don't buy cars. You don't buy cars, but you're a car dealer. No. We sell used cars. We sell new cars, sir. We don't sell used cars. Huh? So that was strange for me at that time, that I thought it's a real culture shock, because in Holland, it was really used cars all in. And that was so important. And then I went to Belgium, not important at all. And that has shifted already. So now you see that the car dealers also have used car showrooms and are promoting the used cars a lot. There are no bad cars out there anymore. There are some differences. I also broke down last weekend with a car, so it still happens. But if you look at all this shift, is it now getting more attention than before? And indeed, talking about electric cars, yeah, what is the shift that's happening again right now in this electric car era?
Hey, before we hop back into this conversation with Martin, imagine an AI communication layer seamlessly connected to your dealership systems. One intelligent platform that gives both your customers and your team instant access to the right information at the right time. Well, that's NovaCo, short for the Nova Company. At its heart is Nova, the AI model behind it all, inspired by the Nova Star. Bright when needed, invisible when not, just like a good assistant. On your website, Nova appears as the orb, a glowing, breathing chat bubble that invites customers to ask anything, anytime. But Nova is more than a website assistant. You see, with Nova Companion, she supports your team internally, answering questions using brochures, price lists, stock data, and more. Just instant answers for your team, saving them time and helping them focus on the customer. And with Nova Messaging, she connects with customers on WhatsApp and other channels, managing service updates, follow-ups, and appointment reminders, all in one professional flow. It's pretty cool. And yes, Nova Voice is coming soon, bringing the same intelligence to your phone system and completing the omni-channel experience. You see, customer communication is evolving, but with NovaCo, you're not just adapting, you're setting the pace. Find out more at novaco.ai, that's novaco.ai, and experience what's next. All right, let's get back to Martin.
Yeah, well, to come to your first point, we also see the the coaches that are out there, there's an enormous difference in cultural behavior versus used vehicles. And I think you're absolutely right. In the Dutch market and in the UK market, both actually, because of a specific reason, they're much more focused on used cars as in other countries. Of course, in the Dutch market, because export used to be extremely difficult. So cars had to stay in the site, so they had to resell them. So that's why the used car market has been cultivated enormously. In UK, a bit for the same reason, because the steering wheel seems to be on a strange side. But so they are much more focused on it. They are much more receptive to anything that can help them, tools as well. And they will have much faster a strategy. In other countries, this is a bit strange. If we talk, because we have got this B2C flow of all of the building areas. One of them is really, at the start, is strategy. Most of retailers in most of the countries don't have a used car strategy. And if we ask them what's your strategy, then they're actually saying, what do you mean? Yeah, what do you want to be? What do you want to sell? What's your core? What isn't core? Where are you going to focus? Where are you going to source? Whatever it is, where are you going to advertise? So all of this needs to be put in place. Not everything, but you need to start somewhere. And I think it starts to shift. Why? Because there are international players challenging much more. There are big groups that are going to a lot of countries, and they are adapting those tools or adopting those tools that they are using in other countries. And that's why it challenges others much more. We also have our own event here in Belgium as well, where we have the second edition this year. We see this as well. There's an enormous appetite to learn about all. So that's more from we often call it operational excellence. If you want to be excellent in this, because used cars can be an enormous opportunity. And that for the EVs is a bit the same thing. It's new and a bit unknown. And we hear too often, but really way too often, that even franchise dealers, salespeople are not allowed to take in their own EVs, which I think is frustrating to hear, because I'm certainly not against EVs. On the contrary, I'm quite a big fan. I've got mine now 3 years, I think. So I think there's an enormous opportunity. A lot of dealers tell us sometimes that don't explain it to a lot of others, because we are making good money, because we can buy cheap, because there's low demand, and we can make enormous margins. There's also an enormous cross-border opportunity where you can easily have differences in vehicles, not only EVs, also others, of 2,000 euros, 3,000, and then I'm talking about differences between Belgium and Germany, for example, or France and Spain. But to know this, you need to stay on top of everything. So,
course.
A lot to be done, which makes it incredibly interesting, because we love this type of stuff. We love to help people.
Yeah, also sounds good. If you look if there are quite some dealer principals listening to the podcast, so what are the 1 or 2 things you'd recommend that they do today to improve their used car operations?
Well, we've got on this flow, we keep an eye on the top 15 areas, which because of course, if someone asks us, where do you think we should work on, then of course that's an easy one to show. Let me think. Well, I think one of the things is this strategy. And most of the people don't understand completely what do you mean. That's no issue, but you need to have a plan. At what price will we sell versus the market? What is our ideal stock mix? you don't know what to source if you don't have an ideal stock mix. Another point which is still very critical in the industry is stock days. How long do vehicles stay in stock? What's your stock rotation? And we see that a lot in heavy goods vehicles, it's even worse, but also in passenger cars, is the lead time until a vehicle is reconditioned, ready to be shown, actually, is sometimes horrific, because the used car division, which is often the number one customer in turnover to the after sales department, is often not seen as a customer. And of course, every month you lose, maybe if it's a young used car, you might lose 1%, 1.5% of value. So this can take a lot of time. So so there are a lot of areas also in the lead management. I think we were talking last week about something else, and you were saying about your own experience about you being a lead, but nothing happens with it. We see it as well. Leads that come in on used vehicles, because you can easily say that, I'm just going to call it now a number, but for example, 60% of the leads might come in on a very low percentage of your stock, which is normal, because everyone looks for the same vehicles which aren't there. That vehicle is very quickly sold. But what do you do with this lead? You need to swap the lead to another vehicle. Does not often happen, all those things. So these are just some areas, but we can keep on going for an hour or two before.
But indeed, if we talked about my experience also, so I'll elaborate a little bit on that experience. So our car broke down last weekend for the third time actually, but it's now the second time on the highway with the full family in it, so it was not so nice. But we don't want that car anymore, so we are looking for a new car. So in the end, I'm in the position of a car buyer, which is quite interesting, being in our professional capacity, looking at, okay, how do we now experience it? So, and I was explaining to you that we have a certain brand in mind that we want to drive. So I called indeed one of the dealerships and I said, we'd like to test drive that and that car. Oh, yeah, that will be difficult because the car is away for a couple of weeks because a customer of ours is driving it for a couple of weeks. So that will be difficult. Okay, but what about another location? Yeah, that's also not possible because we have one of those cars for all of our locations. So it's impossible. I said, okay, well, yeah, then it stops, I think. Yeah, I think so. Well, have a nice day, sir. Okay, I said, yeah, bye-bye. No lead capture, no question, nothing. And I always learned in sales, you sell by asking questions and seeing what need does this customer have, and can we actually provide a solution for that need? Why are they not trained to ask questions? But the second thing is that I then said to my wife, yeah, well, there's a dealer of that brand here down the road. Let's go there. So I walk in. Is that model here? No, we don't have one. Oh, okay. So we can't see it. No. All the other dealers have bought them. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. Then it stops. I said, yeah, exactly. Well, have a nice day, sir. But again, no lead capture, nothing, and we drive away again. Totally crazy. So I think we make a lot of mistakes in the basic, that we actually put a lot of trust in our salespeople. And we think that they are in the showrooms. That's the best thing. It's the people need to talk to people. No, but those people don't ask questions. They are actually used to, perhaps because there's a bad quality of visitors and they're just not in the mood anymore to do it. But if you have your process in place in terms of lead capturing, also for walk-ins and also for phone calls, and then indeed a good process for following up. So I think it's really important for the retailers to start working with consultants to critically look at those processes and get them in place, because you're missing a lot of opportunities here. That's very clear. So indeed, so thank you for reminding that of last week. But also in terms of used cars. So we're talking about more about EVs. And we see retailers who have also a bit of fright of EVs. What about residual values? They are not popular, so we're not buying them. While other dealers say we're buying them very cheap, selling them. Don't tell others that it's going so well. But if you look at it, what are the core issues right now? Are there any issues, or are we just making them up?
Well, yes, there are issues, and that's a bit frustration that I have actually is that there's not a lot organized to support this used car market, not only financially, but also what is basically the issue? Well, the whole thing about used car market and about resale value and about stock management is demand supply. We all know if supply is lower than demand, of course, it's easy. We have seen this during COVID, where the used car values went sky high because there was no supply in new, but also not a lot of supply in used. So what is the issue is the electric vehicles are supported or pushed into the new vehicle market. That's all okay, but then we need to have the mass market now to absorb them as a used vehicle. And the perception of the mass market about EVs is bad or is not good. Why is this? Because there's this media coverage which more looks at sensation than it looks at real facts. Of course, it sells as long as there are clicks. Then, of course, the advertiser pays. So there's a lot of misunderstanding, and there's a lot of fear for battery, which actually all of the studies prove that actually that's not really an issue. I think Arval just published a report recently where after 70,000 it was 93%, and even above 200,000 they still have 90% in average. I need to say in average. So we just need to filter out the ones that have an issue in the cells. But of course, I think therefore state of health will also always be something that needs to be given to a customer, but I think it becomes a commodity to say, like, it's just like in certified. In certified, we used to install this and say, look, it's been checked. Here is the checklist. We've changed this. And then you can put the paper away because people say, okay, thanks. That's good. So they want to be assured about quality, but that's not the point. The issue is that it needs to go much more about feasibility. Help the customer as being an advisor. Is it affordable? Calculate the service cost. Calculate the advantages it has. So we always say it's about FAQ, not frequent asked questions, but feasibility, affordability, and quality. So there's a lot to be done, and always also in our association CARA, but also with SECRA and ACDR and others and VRA. These were a lot of abbreviations again, but the associations which could do something together, because we need to do something because the mass market needs to get more confidence. I'm not saying we have to sell it to anything, but they should be confident that they actually can use it. Because honestly speaking, if the range is 400 kilometers, even if it used to be 480, I'm now assuming that for 85% of people, this is enough. So.
No. I must say, I drive an electric Mercedes, and I've got it now for more than 3 years. It's a fantastic car. It's actually the best car I've ever driven. And it's never let me down. And I don't feel any difference when I drove it for the first day. I don't feel it at all. And I drive quite a lot. So there's for me no difference. But if I look at the certificate, it might be that there's of course it's not the same. I don't have the same range anymore as it was new, but I don't really feel it. So you're right about that. And also I think what was very important, and that was also discussed at the used vehicle summit of Fleet Europe like a few weeks ago, is look at the warranty that actually the manufacturer gives on the battery. So where is the risk anyhow? So there, if it breaks down, you have, I think is it not 9 years or something that you have warranty on batteries?
Yeah, most of them have at least 8, and some have indeed 9. And also, we start to see the first insurance companies that start to give additional warranty after that based on the SOH. So it's always like, now there is volume in all of this, so used volume, volume in used EVs. So now people start to see a sales opportunity. So now services will come as well. So I think all of this is going to help. But I have exactly the same experience. I just noticed it this week. My Skoda Enyaq, I've got this now 3 years. When I went to get it, it was 100% full. That was 3 years ago in May. It was 510 kilometers of range, or 515. I charged it to 80 here at home last week, and it was 405. And I was thinking 405, 80%. So if I add 100 kilometers, it's again above 500. I thought I would never see this 500 again after 3 years, but actually it's not much difference. Of course, I don't often charge at high speed, but that might also be.
But it's also like people say that when they are not when they don't drive an electric car, so like friends and family, electric, no, because then you need to wait a long time before it starts on the highway. No, most of the time you leave home and it's charged enough. You don't need to charge anyhow. It's only when you really go to the north of the Netherlands and drive back, you might need to charge at the highway, and you only charge what you need. So you charge enough to get home, and then you charge it again there. So it's also about educating people about it. And if you look at education and people not knowing about driving an electric and owning an electric car. So if you look at that, what role could AI play in it?
No, that is true. I've made a report for New South Wales in Australia, because they were very interested to hear about what they heard about Europe is that second-hand market of EVs is not going that well, and they want to learn from what happens in Europe so that they can avoid it in Australia. It's quite clever, I think, because Australia started later with electrification. I think they're now also at 11% or 12%, so they are not that far behind now. And they are doing this. They are actually supporting the education of understanding the true facts. And I think AI can play a role as well, because, of course, AI has much easier access to a lot of information, so that it can help. On the one hand, it can help in direct communication with the customer, just like we talk to Copilot or Chat GPT, but with a database of true information, or just like in the area where you are working, where it can be in support of a salesperson to find information very quickly, or to do it even together with the customer, so that it's not just salespersons talk, but they're jointly exploring. That's part of this advisory role. It's like, let's explore the facts together, basically.
Yeah.
It's not a sales.
Exactly.
It's really based on facts.
Yeah, but helping customers who have questions, but also helping dealership employees to come with the right information towards the customer, because it also changes so quickly. You need to have all the knowledge, easily available towards customers and also towards dealership employees. So indeed, I also see that there's a big role for AI there. Next to like your MA5 and used car activities, you're also on the board of Cara, and you're very active with Nexus Communications for the events that they do. How do you see Cara and the other activities that you're working on?
So Cara is indeed the European Association of the Car Remarketing. Started, I think the official launch, it was 2015 or 16, 2015, yes, which was an idea that started as well in 2014 when I started my own company together with Wolfgang Reinhold, ex-Leaseplan. He had that idea for a few years, and then together with Fleet Europe, we've discussed about this. At the same time, Fleet Europe organized the first remarketing summit in Hamburg in 2014, and there the idea was launched. So in the meantime, the Car Remarketing Association is 10 years old now. We just celebrated 10 years and now we're around more than 50 members. So like leasing companies, car manufacturers, rental companies, so everyone who remarkets big volumes, retail groups, and then of course suppliers of this area, like as you mentioned before, Autorola, for example, the companies that do the inspections that work with AI, and in there we work on things to support members into this. Like, for example, we've worked for the last years on a state of health. So we have got an official guideline on a state of health measurement that supports B2B sales. The figures I was quoting before from Arval comes from the fact that they started quite early, measuring state of health on every single vehicle that they sell to in wholesale. But we've got activities also. There are 2 face-to-face meetings a year, of course, apart from the several board meetings we have. And then they work on fair wear and tear, on income access. There is an academy. So very, very interesting thing to do as a board member. And it falls in a bit into the area of we as MA5, but also me personally, we love to add value. We all love to create something. The thing that is not so much in our objective is selling days, because sometimes people come to us and say, great stuff, 200 days, split over 2 years. Then I often say like, oh no, I think this seems to be not the right approach. We often say, let's start with the first phase, maybe do the analysis, try to understand what you want. We'll make a report, we'll make an idea of an action plan, and then you decide if you go further. We don't want to be part of the organization. We really want to be part of the adding value. The same thing with Fleet Europe, as you mentioned. So that actually was my first consulting thing for them, is setting up this remarketing summit in 2014. I think I started in August, and we had it in November. So it was really calling one-to-one people to come there. In the meantime, this is also like now 11 years. And the remarketing summit as we know it, which is always now around October. So in 2014 was around 100 people. Now last year was 350 people in Milan. And they just launched, as you mentioned before, a new summit, the used vehicle retail summit, which actually is around the dealer operations, about really from strategy up to basically delivery, everything in between. But I think the first edition was it seems was a good one, 150 people around. So as a kickoff, this is more than was expected. So good.
And when is the next one?
The next one, well, that's currently under discussion because it might move a bit earlier in the year. Because now, of course, June and October is quite close to each other, but that'll be surely they will decide it in the next 2 months. So
we'll share it to the audience then when in due time when you know that. But there is a new Fleet Europe like event scheduled in Luxembourg. Is the next one?
Yeah.
So what are the key topics in Luxembourg and when is it?
That's what's called the Fleet Europe Days, which is a combination of almost several events happening in this. Fleet Europe. So Texas Communication started with this fleet angle way earlier, or I think now already 27 or 28 years. And that's an event where there is around 1,200 people, 1,500 people. So it's really the annual gathering. Last year in Italy, Milan. So that will be there as well. And one of the days there is about remarketing, which will be circling around the changing ecosystem about how the forces change. We haven't got the tagline or we haven't got the header, so it might feel a bit fluffy, but it's about the changing ecosystem around the weight between OEMs, retailer groups, dealer groups, retail environment, because now we see some importers also becoming quite strong, who have got you were talking yourself about Toyota in Netherlands, but they have got a full ecosystem of almost everything around automotive, which is great. The same Titan in Belgium and those groups like Astara, Van Mossel, Hedin. So that is changing the whole ecosystem, and it will be around that more or less.
So for dealers who are listening and interested in the change and learning more, look at the Fleet Europe event, I would say, organized this time in Luxembourg and visit it. Very interesting. I also almost every time there. So thank you for all these insights and information. It was great having you in the podcast. So for listeners who want to learn more and work with you, what is the best way for them to get in contact?
I think the easiest two ways is maybe trying to find me on LinkedIn, and then you can always send me a connection request and add your elements there, what you want to ask, or info@ma5.eu. That's also easy.
Perfect. Well, I'm sure people will reach out. So again, thanks for all the insights and enjoy your holiday because you're leaving, I heard. So, and speak to you soon. Thank you.
Okay, Maarten. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.